let's get into this tea. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. As you guys can probably hear, I'm outside and I'm actually going to be spilling the tea on myself, sharing my story to you guys. And because I'm putting it out there on YouTube, I found it fitting to be outside because I am going to be sharing it with the world. There's many people that will be watching this video in the years to come and will get to hear my story and the journey that I've been through. I'd like to start off and say that I've been going to church since I can remember. I started off going to church with my mom, and then later on with my grandma, and then with my aunt. So every Sunday I found myself in church. And I didn't really understand the value or the importance of going to church. I didn't understand why we were going to church, but I knew it was something that I had to do every single Sunday. And it wasn't until I was around 10 years old when I came to the United States and I saw how people worship more like in an intimate setting, because I went to a smaller church. All of the other churches that I went to were pretty big. And so that smaller church, there were people that I was closer with, some of my mom's friends and so on, that I built relationships with, and I was a bit closer to. I was able to ask them questions about their relationship with God and how they got to that level, and basically trying to understand. With that, it sparked an interest and a desire to get closer to God, to understand my journey and my walk with Him. And 2 years after that, I got baptized along with my brother. We got baptized on the same day. With baptism, it came responsibility. Like, I was expected to, walk uprightly and continue to be in the Word and pray and continue on my relationship with God. And for that, it wasn't too scary for me because I was at a young age and I knew I had so many people around me that would help me along the way and ensure that I was walking on the right path. So that made it a bit easier for me because there was always someone there, like, oh, how's your relationship with God? How are you doing? How are you building? How are you growing? And having that kind of discussion and conversation, it helped me to understand where I needed to be and what was expected. So that was very helpful. I was a worship leader from a very young age. I've always had the desire to sing and worship God and dance and different forms of worship. So from that very young age, I was a worship leader around like 10, 11, I'd say. And I just continued on. Went from the very first church that I went to a different church. And of course we left the first church for reasons I'm not going to get into, and the second church for another different reason. But the third church, the church that I'm at right now, is where I'm staying. And it is a very homely church. I've been there for about 4 going on 5 years, and I definitely feel like this is where I belong. So let's rewind a bit. So it wasn't until high school, when I was about 14 years old, where I had encounters with temptation, like major temptation. It wasn't like, sometimes you slip up here and there, say a little curse word or things like that, but it was major temptation where I felt like, now I needed to be in certain relationships and I needed to have this kind of attention and I needed to be this type of girl and all of that. So going into high school, I was already intrigued because, you're a freshman, it's your first year, it's a big school. I wasn't so used to all of those people in one area. And I was pretty short, so I would walk in the hallway and I was very loud. So I was loud, like known as in like popular, because people from my middle school went to my high school, and people that I knew from elementary school went to my high school. So it was like I knew so many people, and then I knew seniors and stuff. I just knew people. People just saw me in the hallway and they were like, oh, she seems cool, and they were very friendly with me. So I would be walking the hallway like, excuse me, talking up to like the tall guys, trying to pass, but also wanting to get their attention. And from that, they would like look at me and like flirt and whatnot, and of course I would flirt back. And all of that stuff. So that built the desire to have that kind of attention and to have those kind of compliments and relationships and things like that. So I had a burning desire to be in a relationship. And I mean, I kind of was in a relationship at that point, but it was a long distance relationship, which wasn't so serious. We just kind of saw each other. We're like, oh, we should be together. And then a few months later, we just decided it wouldn't work because I didn't know the next time I was going back to Guyana anyways. So that kind of fell off, and I was like, you know, I think I want to be in an actual relationship. So there was a period in my life, years actually, at least about 2 to 3 years, until like my junior year, I'd say, where I was talking to at least 2 guys at a time, at least. Just flirting, getting to know them, hanging out with them, dating and things like that. At least 2 guys at a time. And it was so bad, like laughing at it now, like how did I juggle all of that? How did I do that in schoolwork? Well, it's plain and simple. Like, I was a horrible student in high school. I wasn't really focused on my grades and things like that. Yes, I knew the material, but I was always late or absent. So I wasn't taking school as seriously because I was so focused on guys. Also, I was a part of the cheerleading team. So I used the cheerleading team as an excuse because my parents were very, very strict. I couldn't go out to like parties or a friend's house or anything like that. So with cheerleading, they required cheerleaders to show team spirit, and you needed to be at different events and support the school. So that was my excuse to go to all of the events at my school. And I was a girl in the party that you knew was there. Like, the next day you will be talking about the party and you see me, you're like, yep, like I didn't know you could dance like that and all that stuff. Because whenever I went to a party, the dance, in all of the dances, them thinking I had something to prove, basically like showing them that GT girls can whine. So I was in the middle doing splits. I didn't do head top, but I was the one touching the toes, showing the acrobatics that you can do and all the wild dances you can think of. I was that girl. And parties usually were on Friday nights at my high school, and the Saturday would be rehearsal for worship, and the Sunday would of course be church, and I would be the worship leader. So I was living a double life. Like, I was into the partying. As I got a bit older as well, I was into drinking and things like that. Underage drinking, yes, I'm admitting that. And I would go to like all these different bars, these different clubs and things like that with my friends, and we would party, or we would hang out at each other's, well, their house, because it couldn't happen at my house. We hung out at their houses and we like drank and talked about life and things like that instead of going to school. And so it just, that continued for years and years and years. But somewhere in the midst of that, I found myself, like, I lost myself. Like, I realized that I was losing myself, like, because I had to keep up with this double life, because I had to keep up with feeling entertained and feeling valued and wanted by all these different guys, and not really seeking after God, but also worshiping him in church, and realizing that the Holy Spirit was still there, present, and was yearning for me to come back to him. I found myself like at a crossroad. So there were times when I would just pray to God and ask him, like, why am I living this double life? Like, why am I so intrigued by this partying and drinking and all of these things like that, and also intrigued by worshiping you and doing what you called me to do? Like, I know I can't balance the two. I know that one is gonna have to fall off, and you know, I can't be lukewarm. So there were times where I had those conversations with God, but the following week, right back at it again, going to the parties, using cheerleading and friends and all that stuff as an excuse. And in the midst of that, everyone that I was with was basically following me. Like, you know, if I wanted to go to a party, if I didn't want to go to school, if I wanted to do this, like, there were people that were interested in whatever it was that I was interested in. So in a sense, I was leading people down this path that they shouldn't be down, that I shouldn't even be down in the first place. So that was a battle that I've had to deal with. So then it continued on with me going to all of these different parties and things like that, but I started to like fall off a bit. So I would go to the party and I would dance and drink a little bit, or if sometimes I would say no, I don't want anything to drink and whatnot, and I would be cognizant of the way I was acting. So if I danced a little bit, I'll say, okay, let me stop, and I'll move to the corner or something like that. And one thing that one of my best friends at the time actually said to me was, oh, you should take a drink, like you're more fun when you drink. And that at the time, like, I felt like I had something to prove, like I could still be fun without drinking. And again, just like how I was in the parties and dances trying to prove Guyanese girls can wine, I was trying to prove that I could still have fun, and their definition of fun was partying and drinking. So it was like a dilemma that I had to face. Like, I still wanted to ensure that I was entertaining my friends and having fun with them and making sure that they had fun, but also understanding that this is not where God has called me to be. So I went through a period of time where my health was being attacked, and this was a struggle for me because all of my life, from since I was born until around 15, I'd say, I've been healthy. I've never got a cold. The most I've had was what you guys call pink eye. In Guyana we call it red eye. I used to get that like during the summer weather because it would be so hot and something with my eyes. But then my health started getting troubled. Like the doctors found like a little I guess you can call them lumps, because I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it's little things in my breast, little dense breast tissues. And I would be in and out of the doctor's office. I would be missing school now because I'm in the doctor's office. I'm always visiting the doctor, and I cried out to God. I was like, why is this happening to me? Like, in that time I was like, confessing that I am your child. Like, why am I going through this? I've never been sick. God was just replaying everything that I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing, and he was basically calling me to get closer with him, to build a closer relationship with him. And even though I got that revelation, I was still stuck because yes, my health is important and I still wanted to be healthy, but I had all of these friends that I would lose if I decided that I'm fully going to commit myself to God. In high school, for most people, it's hard to build friendships, but for me, I was friends with like almost everybody. Of course, there were people that I called haters that didn't like me or whatever the case may be, but I was so well known that for me to decide, okay, I'm gonna turn around and the person that everyone once knew wouldn't be the same, like, I had a reputation to uphold, and it was hard for me to turn away from that because I was well known. I loved being at the parties and having fun and all that stuff, so it was a battle for me. It was a struggle. So I continued crying out to God, and I said, okay, inch by inch, little by little, I'm gonna try to change. I'm gonna try to turn that lifestyle around. But it was so hard. It was so hard, and I just couldn't do it. And then one night, God revealed to me that the enemy knows that you have the desire to get closer to me. The enemy knows that you're gonna break off from this and you're going to turn your life around, and what he's trying to do is keep you in that bondage, to keep you around those friends, to keep you partying and all of those things. And then he also wants to attack your health, your well-being, so that it will discourage you. It'll make you think like, maybe God doesn't care about you anymore. Like, look at the lifestyle that you're living. Why would God even care about you? And now look at your health. This is all because of all the things that you're doing wrong. And that's how I thought for a while. I was like, wow, God must be really upset for me to now get sick, being a person that doesn't usually get sick. And it was tough, and it was sad because I couldn't share what I was going through with these so-called friends that I had. Like, I couldn't share with them that, I'm struggling with this, the enemy is fighting my health. Most of my friends just thought I was going for doctor's checkups and things like that. They didn't know that I actually was going to the doctor because there was something serious, something that could have been cancerous. So they were running tests, and they were doing all these different surgeries and all of that. And I cried a lot. I cried a lot because I would say because of pride. Of course, I being a person that never really got sick or anything like that. And then also because I really felt like alone in that process. Like, yes, I was crying out to God, and yes, he's always there with you. God said, if you make your bed in hell, I'll be there with you, right? So in other words, if I put myself in a situation that is not glorifying God, he will still be there. He will still like cry out to you. He'll still say, come home, my child. And you know, I heard that cry. I heard him calling me, but for some reason I couldn't fully commit. I kept saying, you know, I'm too young to want to live like this. I have all these friends that, you know, I need to keep up with. Not understanding that those friendships won't even be as rewarding, because after graduation there were only a few friends that I actually took along with me that I continue to keep in contact with. And I feel like high school graduation was a turning point, because God knew that some of these friends I wouldn't let go of myself. God knew that for them to be let go of, he would have to physically take them out of my life. And that's what happened. And then I went to college, and freshman year of college I was like, okay, I'm gonna turn around a new leaf. I'm gonna be more selective with my friends, because in high school I was friends with cheerleaders, I was friends with of course jocks, I was friends with people that, I'm not gonna call them nerds, but I was friends with very smart people. I was friends with people like the Spanish group. I was in the Spanish group, I was in the Chinese group, like a few of them I knew, and I was actually kind of close with. I was just everywhere. And I decided now I'm gonna be really selective with my group of friends, the people that I choose to keep around me, the influences that I have, because although you're influencing your friends, they can influence you and the decisions that you make in your life. So knowing that, I was very conscious about the friends that I was going to choose. Of course, still wanting to party, I went to a few parties in my college, and I think it was the first or second one that I went to, it was after like a midterm. I think it was around midterm season. Yeah, so I did all of my exams and things like that. I had just gotten out of a really toxic relationship with this guy in my senior year in high school, and you know, thank God I got out of that relationship, because it was to the point where I didn't value myself. He used to cheat and all of that stuff, and I really thought that was something that I should be okay with, because at the end of the day he's coming back to me and he's loving me, and I don't need to give him that part of me for him to love me. So I was saying, you know, those girls are giving him the body and that's all that he wants with them, but for me, he actually genuinely loved me. That's what I kept telling myself. Of course, that was not the case, and I ended up falling into sin with him and still being treated the same way. And I luckily realized that it was a back and forth thing for him. Like, he would use me as much as I allow him to, so I had to get out of that relationship. I went to the college parties, and I decided, you know, I'm really gonna have fun. I just got out of a relationship, I'm single, I don't have to stress or worry about anyone, and just finished my first first few exams in college. And you know, I need to celebrate myself and all of that stuff. So my friend and I went to this party, and I wore the most skimpish outfit ever. Like, every time I look at that outfit, I think back, like, who allowed me to leave my house like this? Did my parents even see me dressed like? It was so bad. It was horrible. If I can find a picture, I'm gonna actually insert. It was so bad. But yeah, so I was staying with my other friend, and we were more to ourselves, and you know, guys would have to come over and be like, oh, can I dance with you? And then I would go dance with them. So there was this one guy that I noticed was looking at me for most of the night, and he was actually a guy that my friend was interested in. I didn't realize until much later, and she told me, but I didn't realize it was the same guy that she was looking at. So he came up to me and he asked me my name, and my mindset still like, I'm not interested in any guy, I'm not gonna entertain that, whatever. So I just said my name, and I looked back, because it was a concert as well. I think it was it wasn't a Conscience concert, we met him before, but it was a Movado. When I remember the name, it was some guy with dreads, and I'm not remembering his name right now. I think I knew like one song by him. Honestly, the rest of them I just knew the beat, so I was dancing. But yeah, so I ignored him and I continued with the rest of the concert. He wrote in my name, and then I typed in my number and stuff, and a connection in my head. We made a good connection and whatnot, so I wanted to see where it would go. He made it clear that he didn't just want to be my friend, so I respected that. And when I was ready, when I thought I was ready, we got into another relationship. So it's like a month or two, we were like talking, acting like a couple and stuff, and then we made it official like 5 months in or whatever. Anyways, this guy, I set my terms. I said I wasn't going to do certain things. You know, I want to continue to be celibate. Again, I said I fell off with my ex, so he knew my story with my ex and the hurt that I've been through and all of that, and I said I'm not going to fall into that. And he understood and he respected it. He was very mature, I'd say. But then another thing for me was I wanted to do things differently than I did with my previous exes. I said it's important that God is in the center of my relationship. And, you know, he said, you know, he goes to church with his mom and whatnot. Of course, the typical things that guys say. Yeah, I'm familiar with God. I know about a relationship with him and stuff. But continuing down the line, we made compromises. Thankfully, I didn't give myself over to him. But a lot of compromises were made. Like, I was still pursuing the relationship even though he didn't have that relationship with God. So God wasn't necessarily at the center of our relationship, and because I was trying to get closer to God, I couldn't have that. But everybody thought he was cute and stuff, so I felt like even more beautiful to be with a guy that was that attractive. I don't even remember how it happened. We just stopped talking, and we spoke about a month after we stopped talking, and it was just a lot of things were coming up. And I realized that God saw the compromises that I was making in that relationship. And same thing like I did with my friendships. Like, I was making so many compromises trying to hold on to him and our relationship that I wasn't working on my relationship with God. I would spend so many nights talking to him and video chatting or whatever the case may be, talking about things that might be inappropriate as well, versus spending that extra time that I needed with God. And God had to remove him. And so after that guy was removed from my life, I was still hurting and I was still crying and all of that. And I met another guy. Like, now that I'm thinking about it so much, but I met another guy, and you know, I was hoping to like be just friends with him and stuff. So we established like a really nice friendship and whatnot, and he was talking about his girlfriend, and I would talk about my ex and the things that we were going through. So we were able to give each other advice and things like that. But he took full advantage, of course, and that made it even worse because, you know, I really trusted him, and he had a girlfriend at the time, and it just continued to add to the hurt that I went through with my ex from high school, and then my other ex that I thought, you know, should be the one, hoping that it would work out, and then now for him to take advantage, knowing that I was so vulnerable, and it hurt. I realized that I didn't need to have a guy in my life. I didn't need to have all of those friends surrounding me as distraction. I just needed to fully and completely focus on God. I went up to the mountains with my church, and it was a great retreat. We got to spend time with other Christians who were also interested in building themselves up and working on their relationship and things like that. Sorry, there's trees all around me, so there's birdies just having fun. But went up to the retreat, went up to the mountains, and I decided at this point forward, I wanted to devote my life and my heart to God. Because everything that I tried doing on my own, it didn't make sense, it wasn't working out. I just needed clarity, and I needed God to fix my situation and to turn my life around so that I can fully and completely focus on Him. So up in the mountains, I was praying, and I was meeting with all of these different Christians, people around my age and older. And with that, I was able to be a part of this panel where I sat down and I heard Christians talk about relationships and talk about marriage and all of these things. And I started to wonder, like, why am I not there? Like, why isn't my mindset there? Like, all of these people have this establish that, you know, there's a certain criteria if they're going to talk to someone, or court as they call it. Christians don't date, because dating is like you're trying someone out. If you're going to be in a relationship with someone, you both need to be in the same mindset that you're courting and you're aiming towards marriage. So that changed my whole perspective, because every time before that I was just dating, and I was interested in how a guy made me feel at that time, and, you know, the fun times we had and going out on dates and all the materialistic things of the world that I could have. I wasn't focused on, is this something that I really can have, or is this someone I can be with for the rest of my life? So with that mindset, I said, you know what, my next relationship, I'm not going to be with someone that is just there to date. And I said, even before that, like, I don't want to focus on just finding a guy and being in a relationship. Like, I want to work on my relationship with God first and foremost. So moving forward into the rest of my sophomore, junior, senior year, I decided, you know what, God, I'm just going to focus on you and you alone. God has placed me in so many places. He has uplifted me in my lifestyle, in my relationships, in my friendships. Like, so many people have fallen off. Like, I can list the amount of friends that I have on just one hand, like maybe two, but that's about it. And some of those friends are also family. So I had like hundreds of friends, and so many of them fell off. And of course I knew that was for a reason, that was for a purpose. And because those friends fell off, I can now really focus on God. And I continued to build my relationship with him, and I was in devotionals, and I was drinking less, and I was partying less, and I had that desire to just be with God and to continue to build and work on my relationship with him. I ended up being on the worship team for my church. I ended up meeting an amazing guy that is Christ-centered, Christ-focused, and I was able to build stronger relationships with my family, and we would have these discussions about the Word of God, and we would be in prayer together. So right now I am a Sunday school teacher, so God is showing me different ways that not only am I working on myself and keeping myself accountable, but he's placing me in positions where others are also keeping me accountable. I'm here on YouTube, and I'm sharing my journey and my story with you guys, and that's helping me to remain accountable, because before I even come in front of the camera, I need to make sure that I'm doing my devotionals. I need to make sure that I'm praying with God and seeking after him. Like, what do you want me to say to these people? What is it that you desire for me to share? And you know, my health has turned around majorly. Like, the lumps that they found that they were scared would be cancerous, they ran so many tests, they did surgeries and so on, and they came back benign. Benign meaning that they are normal, they are, you know, nothing that they need to worry about. And although they didn't know the cause of that, they said it was something that was common for girls around my age, and luckily they caught it when they did, because, you know, you never know what that could have turned out to be. And I'm grateful to God for this journey that I'm on. I'm grateful to him that despite all of the things that I've been through, I was able to turn that around and just focus on God and be able to inspire youth that are going through that. Understanding that God is more important. Like, everything turns around. Like, everything would work out in your favor if you seek God first. And understanding that you will be tempted along the way. Like, Jesus was tempted after he fasted for 40 days in the wilderness. If Jesus was tempted, being the Son of God, who am I? You know, I'm the daughter of God. If I'm a daughter, I'm going to be tempted too, you know? So understanding that if I put God first as my number one, everything will fall into place. And that's the place that I'm at right now. Like, my life isn't perfect, but everything is working out in my favor, and there will be temptation. There will be demons and people that, you know, don't want to see you doing good. There will be arguments with friends and with family and things of that nature. But I'm grateful to God for that journey that I've been through, and the journey that I'm continuing on, because it has taught me so much about myself. It has taught me so much about friendships and relationships, and it's taught me so much about God. I was able to build on my relationship with him, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that my story was something that you can relate to, or that you can use as an inspiration. And of course, I don't mind opening up and going more in depth about certain areas of what I've spoken about, but it's just such a long story that I'm gonna end it here. But if there's any questions that you guys might have, make sure that you leave it down below. If there's any advice that you guys would have about relationships, friendships, family, school, you know, building your relationship with God, all of that, I have so much to share, and I definitely want to go more in depth about it, but I want to be led to share that, and I definitely want to hear from you guys what it is that you'd like to learn more about. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video wasn't too long. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.